The Badlands is probably one of the most underrated and underused biomes in Minecraft. It could be because of its hostile environment or even the animals that live there. So I took it as a challenge to build something that would give a little more life to these endless canyons. Now before we get started on the build, my name is Ghostlyy, and if you enjoy this video or my last video, be sure to hit the subscribe button, and of course if you have any feedback or thoughts on this build, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. The response I got from you guys on my first video was absolutely insane, and I'm still shocked from it even whilst recording this, so thank you so much again for all the likes, comments and the new subscribers. Alright, back to the video. After searching seed after seed, I managed to find this perfect looking canyon and began straight away by removing the small lake in the middle, as well as some smaller ponds to give more breathing room to really plan this build out. Unlike my last video, I wanted to actually have a somewhat solid plan to go by, so by creating these green shapes I'd know roughly where the layout would be and how it would all fit together. Whilst looking at the classic Wild West locations in movies and games, there always seems to be a natural giant archway in the backdrop, so by using a quick world edit brush I was able to carve the side of the canyon into the one next door, to create a very basic archway, smoothing out the bottom of the archway with red sand and terracotta to bring back some of the natural looks of it. Don't worry about this hole, it was completely on purpose. Next on the terraforming list was to shape out these tunnels that would connect the top of the canyon to the bottom. Now I'm not going to say what this is for, but you probably have a good idea of what it will be later in the video. So after being drowned, I decided to build a small farm just to see if it would fit into place with the current landscape, and I wasn't really feeling too happy with it, so let's just ignore it for now and name it the Forgotten Farm, and never look at it ever again. So if you haven't realised at this point, I don't really build things in order, more of just jumping all over the place. So I wanted to get a basic path down that I could then replicate in the future to join all of the structures together. Using coarse dirt, gravel, red sand and meadow grass together gave it a well used and busy vibe. Moving on to the first building of the street, I wanted to have the classic Wild West townhouse style, which could then be easily modified and changed for other buildings along the main street. As only at the time of building this did I realise that literally every single one of these buildings is different and unique in its own way. So by using a variety of different images and blending them together, I got what I think is about as classic Wild West as you can get. Interiors are sometimes very hard to pull off, but since this is the West, basic works perfect, so I'm not complaining. Very boxy, tall, and of course, made of wood. So with this build, I wanted to challenge myself on having as much detail as possible and using as many different blocks as I can to create the old worn out vibe that we all know and love. Combining trapdoors, vines, tree bark and a few more decorative blocks, I got the result I wanted straight away. As I mentioned before, variety is something that is constant in Wild West themed towns. To bring a little more colour onto the street, I used redwood planks and logs to make sure that I wouldn't end up with a street that's all the same colour. Using the same exterior decorations as the first building, but just in their own colours. This helps sell the same effect, but blends in a lot more. Speeding up the process a little bit, I quickly built up what would be the sheriff's house, or the jail, or the police station. You know what I mean. Mixing building heights and colour palettes, I breezed through creating the opposite side of the street in no time. My favourite has got to be this one here, as it's in the middle of our street. Everybody knows that you can't have a Wild West town without a saloon, the social hub for outlaws and gunslingers alike. I won't show you too much of the saloon, as I do want to keep some of it as a surprise until the showcase at the end of the video, but trust me when I say,
that's pretty good.
I attempted making a water tower after looking at some images online, and I can safely say this looks nothing like one. Back to the archway, I gave it some hanging lanterns to help sell the industrial style, and also gave it a makeover by adding some cactuses. Cacti.
Cactuses.
Moving over to some more structures in the town, I tried over and over again to create a Wild West themed church, but turns out I can't build churches to save my life. So with a little help from ADCraft, I was able to get a basic shape and then modify it to fit the rest of the town. Great tutorial by the way, definitely check them out. And of course, what town could have a church without a graveyard? Now this is about as simple as it gets, so to make it not look too bulky, I landed on this design and kept as much free space within the fence as possible, and eventually connected the walkways to the main street. Next on the list was the train station, and this is also where my plans for this town took a step back, as without realising I didn't have the version of the Create mod that included actual working trains, so my hopes and dreams went straight out the window. And with this heartbreak, it was finally time to face what I've been dreading all along. The windmills. Now, you're probably thinking, windmills aren't very Wild West, but they do look really nice when paired with a similar building style to the town, so screw it. Using redstones in Minecraft has never been my strong suit, and when there's blocks like motors, gear shifts and other pieces of machinery, I kind of myself. So after struggling trying to figure out how to get this thing to actually spin, I noticed it said this. Now that I had rotating blades, I tried different designs. Why not use trapdoors to line the blades for a bit more depth? And can safely say this is why I shouldn't be involved with tech mods. On the opposite sides of the canyon, I added a big old-timey looking mine, and this is where the residents would get all of their valuable materials and ores. And by spamming my mouse, I got rid of all the circles left behind by the world edit brush, and this would help make it look a lot more like a real world mine. Threw in some extra lighting and extra details as normal, and I was proud to call this build finished. So there it is. This build was a lot to manage when creating this, purely out of the challenge to make everything as detailed as possible and the constant crashes, but I couldn't be happier as it turned out way better than I actually expected. I'd like to say thank you again for all the support on my last video, and of course if you have any feedback, please feel free to throw it in the comments down below, as I reply to as many as possible. Leave a like and subscribe for more of this chaos in the future. Bye.